The living map did not glow with harmony anymore. It trembled. Suspended between Arman and Lina as their sky vessel sailed beyond the restored Isles of Vareth, its unified gold-and-silver light now flickered with jagged fractures, like glass holding together through sheer will. Lina noticed first. It's unstable. Arman studied the shifting light carefully. The map's pathways, once flowing like rivers, now splintered into branching directions, colliding, diverging, then reforming. As if the world itself could not decide where it stood. "We restored the oath ring," Lina said quietly. "The isles healed. The promises were sealed." Arman nodded, but his expression darkened. "Yes, but vows are only one part of balance." The map pulsed again, harder this time. And the ocean below them changed. The sea no longer flowed as one body. Lines of light divided it. Entire currents moved in opposite directions, colliding into massive spirals of mist and lightning. Far in the distance, continents loomed, but not peacefully. Storm walls separated their skies. Beacon fires burned along coastlines. War fleets gathered like iron scars on the water. Lina's voice lowered. "This isn't natural." "No," Arman replied. "It's political." They guided the vessel higher, following the map's fractured pull. As they ascended through dense cloud banks, the world revealed itself fully. 3 vast landmasses lay ahead, each separated by glowing barrier storms. Each marked by a different sigil blazing across the sky. One burned crimson. One shimmered sapphire. One glowed pale gold. Lina stared in awe. They look like rival realms. Arman exhaled slowly. "They are." He pointed first to the Crimson Continent. The dominion of Karos. Its skies burned orange with volcanic haze. Armored airships patrolled its borders. Cities were built like fortresses, all walls and watchtowers. A realm that believes strength keeps peace. He turned toward the sapphire landmass. The maritime concord of Elira. Endless canals and floating cities glimmered beneath storm-glass domes. Massive trade fleets crowded its ports. A realm that believes wealth binds the world. Finally, he looked toward the pale gold continent. The Solari Ascendancy. Spied cities pierced luminous cloud layers. Radiant energy shields shimmered across mountain ranges. A realm that believes enlightenment grants authority. Lina folded her arms slowly. So 3 powers, each believing they should guide the world. Arman nodded. And none trusting the others to do so. The map pulsed violently again. Pathways extended toward all 3 realms at once. Then split apart. Then collided. Lina stepped closer to it. It's trying to connect them, but something's resisting. Arman's voice dropped to a near whisper. The map doesn't fracture unless the world does first. She looked up at him. "You think war is coming?" He didn't answer immediately. Because the answer was already visible below. A blinding flash erupted along the ocean barrier between Karos and Elira. Moments later, the shockwave reached the sky vessel. The ship rocked violently. What was that? Lina steadied herself. Arman moved to the forward scope. Below, two massive fleets clashed at the storm boundary. Warships of iron and flame. Trade vessels reinforced with arcane shields. Cannons of fire and lightning tore through the barrier mist. "They've begun already," he said grimly. Lina's eyes widened. "But why now? After everything we restored?" Arman clenched his jaw. "Because when promises are healed, hidden ambitions rise to fill the silence." The map flickered sharply. A new symbol burned into its center. Not a path. A fracture point. The convergence of all three realms. Lina traced the glowing fracture line with her finger. "It wants us there." Arman nodded slowly. "The heart of the division." She swallowed. "Then that's where we go." But as the vessel turned toward the central fracture zone, the map dimmed slightly. Not from damage. From strain. Lina noticed her wristband flicker in response. Their guardianship bond was reacting to the world's instability. "The more divided they become," she whispered, "the harder it is for the map to hold together." Arman looked at her, understanding the unspoken implication. If the realms fully fractured, the map could shatter permanently, and every path they had restored would vanish with it. He placed his hand over hers. "Then we don't let it shatter." She nodded, but her gaze remained fixed on the war gathering below. "This won't be like the Isles." "No," he agreed. "There, we healed promises between two hearts." He looked toward the fractured continents. "Here, we face promises broken between entire worlds." The sky vessel sailed toward the storm convergence. Lightning from three realms collided overhead, red, blue, and gold. The map pulsed in painful resonance. And far ahead, a colossal floating boundary city emerged, suspended between all three realms like a diplomatic wound that never closed. Arman spoke its name quietly. The Triarch Divide. Lina felt the weight of the journey ahead settle in her chest. This is where the world decides whether it stays whole or breaks beyond repair. The storm convergence did not rage aimlessly. It circled with intention. Three colossal lightning fronts, crimson, sapphire, and gold, spiraled around a single suspended metropolis that floated above the fractured sea like a crown forged from uneasy compromise. The sky vessel slowed as it approached. No natural winds guided this place. Only political gravity. Lina stepped to the forward railing. "So that's the Triarch Divide." Her voice carried equal parts awe and unease. From afar, the city looked magnificent. Vast sky bridges linking towering districts, banners streaming from crystalline spires, airship ports stacked in layered rings. But as they drew closer, the fractures became visible. Entire sections of the city were separated by shimmering barrier walls. Three districts. Three rulers. Three ideologies forced to coexist on neutral ground. Arman guided the vessel toward the central docking ring, the only port not claimed by any realm. "The neutral spire," he said. "Last ground not governed by crown or council." Lina folded her arms lightly. "And I'm guessing it's also the least trusted place in the city." He gave a faint nod. "Neutrality breeds suspicion." As they descended, escort vessels emerged, one from each district. Karos wore skiffs, iron-plated, blade-winged. Eliran trade cruisers, sleek, rune-shielded. Solari sentry craft, radiant, silent, hovering without visible propulsion. They did not attack. But neither did they welcome. They flanked the sky vessel like rival wolves escorting prey through contested territory. Lina lowered her voice. I feel like we just walked into a negotiation already mid-argument. Arman didn't disagree. The Divide hasn't hosted unified talks in over a decade. Then why summon guardians now? He glanced toward the flickering living map. Because the map itself is fracturing. If it collapses, every trade route, alliance, and border treaty loses meaning overnight. She exhaled slowly. So they need us. But none want the others to gain our favor, he finished. The docking ring opened before them, ancient mechanisms still loyal to Citadel authority. Their vessels settled onto luminous stone. As the ramp lowered, the tension thickened instantly. Delegates from all three realms stood waiting, each group separated by invisible lines of distrust. Karos envoys wore armor even in diplomacy. Eliran ministers carried ledger scrolls instead of weapons. Solari emissaries radiated calm, but their eyes glowed with measured scrutiny. At the center stood a neutral figure cloaked in gray, the Divide's appointed mediator. Guardians, the mediator greeted, bowing slightly. The Triarch Divide acknowledges your arrival. The mediator gestured outward. You arrive at a precarious hour. Lina glanced between the factions. We noticed the fleets. A Karos warlord stepped forward immediately. Defensive positioning. An Eliran minister scoffed. Trade protection, you mean? A Solari emissary spoke calmly over them both. Security escalations benefit no one. The argument ignited in seconds. Arman raised his hand slightly, not commanding, but grounding. The ring of oaths glowed. Its light washed over the plaza like calm after thunder. Silence fell. Not enforced. Remembered. The mediator exhaled in relief. The Citadel's presence still carries weight, it seems. Arman stepped forward. You didn't summon us to witness arguments. Speak plainly. The mediator nodded. Then gestured toward the storm horizon. The fracture lines between realms are expanding. Storm barriers are hardening. Travel between territories is collapsing. Lina frowned. But the map should stabilize those routes. The mediator's expression darkened. It would, if all realms still recognized its authority. A heavy silence followed. Arman's voice lowered. You're saying one of the realms has rejected the map. The mediator corrected softly. Not one. He turned slowly, indicating all three delegations. All. Shock rippled through Lina. All three. The Eliran minister spoke first. The map routes favor Karos war supply lines. The Karos warlord snapped back. The map weakens our defensive borders. The Solari emissary added quietly. The map preserves outdated treaties that hinder ascension. 3 grievances. 3 interpretations. 1 truth. The map, once a neutral guide, had become a contested instrument of power. Lina whispered to Arman, "If they sever it completely, the world fractures permanently," he finished. The mediator spoke again. "That is why you were called." He looked directly at both guardians. The realms will not submit to each other, but they may still submit to judgment of the citadel. Lina's brow tightened. "You want us to decide which realm the map should favor?" "No," the mediator said. "I want you to prevent them from tearing it apart entirely." Arman understood instantly. This isn't diplomacy. He looked out toward the storm barriers. It's triage. The living map materialized between them again, flickering violently now within the storm-charged air of the divide. Its fractured pathways extended toward each realm, then shattered before completion. A new trial had begun. Not of hearts this time, but of nations. Lina steadied herself. "Then we start where the fracture is deepest." Arman nodded. "Karos, Elira, or Solori?" The mediator answered grimly, "You won't get to choose." Lightning struck the city's central spire. The map flared in alarm. All 3 have demanded guardianship audience. At the same hour, the wind changed first. It no longer howled like a storm chasing them, it whispered, as if the air itself had begun listening. Lina felt it brush her cheek like a warning. She and Arman stood at the center of the fractured bridge, a narrow span of ancient stone floating between 2 broken cliffs. Below them, clouds churned like an endless ocean, lit from beneath by strange, shifting lights. Lina tightened her grip on the map. The parchment had begun to glow again, faint lines reshaping themselves, forming paths that hadn't existed moments ago. "Arman," she whispered, "the bridge, it's reacting to us." Arman stepped closer, his boots scraping loose gravel into the abyss. He studied the shifting symbols. "It's not reacting to us," he said quietly. "It's judging us." The words lingered heavily between them. Behind them, the path they had come from dissolved into drifting fragments of stone, sealing their retreat. Ahead, the bridge split into 3 diverging paths, each arching into a different sky. One burned crimson. One shimmered silver. One was swallowed in shadow. A low hum vibrated through the stone beneath their feet. Then the voices began. Not loud. Not threatening. Familiar. Lina gasped softly. She heard her mother's voice, warm, calling her home the way she had as a child. Arman stiffened beside her. His jaw tightened. He heard something too. "The realms test the heart," Lina murmured, recalling the citadel inscriptions. "Each path, a promise." The crimson path flared brighter, showing visions in its mist. War. Fire. Cities collapsing. But at the center, Lina saw herself, standing fearless, saving countless lives. "The path of sacrifice," she breathed. The silver path shimmered next. It showed peace, a quiet coastal town, sunlight on water, her and Arman walking together free of burdens. The path of desire. Arman looked away from it quickly. Then both turned toward the shadowed path. It showed nothing. No visions. No future. Only darkness. The unknown, Arman said. The map burned brighter in Lina's hands. New words etched themselves across the parchment. Only united may the bridge hold. Lina read it aloud. Arman exhaled slowly. So, we choose together. Or we fall. A tremor shook the bridge, stones shifting, cracks racing beneath their feet. Time was running out. Lina looked at each path again, but this time she didn't watch the visions. She watched Arman. I know what my heart wants, she said softly. But every time I've followed only desire, the map has led us back to danger. Arman nodded. And sacrifice alone destroys what we're fighting for. They both looked toward the shadowed path. The wind there felt different. Colder, but honest. No visions, Lina whispered. No lies. Arman extended his hand. Then we walk the truth. Whatever waits there, we face it together. Lina placed her hand in his. The moment their fingers intertwined, the map released a pulse of light that traveled down their joined arms into the bridge. The three paths began collapsing. Crimson shattered into sparks. Silver dissolved like mist. Only the shadowed path remained. But it was no longer dark. Soft constellations now glowed along its surface, like a road built from the night sky itself. The bridge stabilized. A calm silence replaced the storm. Lina smiled faintly. It chose honesty. Arman squeezed her hand gently. Or maybe, it chose trust. They stepped forward together. As their feet touched the starlit path, the world around them shifted. The sky folded inward like pages of a book turning. Fragments of places they had visited flickered around them. The desert oasis, the floating markets, the shattered citadel. Memories. Trials. Promises made, and nearly broken. Then, the path ended. Before them rose a vast doorway carved into open air. Not stone. Not metal. Light. Its surface rippled like water, reflecting not their faces, but their fears. Lina saw herself alone, holding the map as it turned to ash. Arman saw Lina fading from his grasp into mist. Both hesitated. The final fracture, Arman said quietly. Lina steadied her breath. No, the final truth. She stepped closer to the doorway. The map spoke one last line. Promises unbroken open the way. Lina looked at Arman. Tears shimmered in her eyes, not of fear, but certainty. No matter what waits beyond this, we don't let go. Arman nodded. Not in this world. Not in any realm. Together, still hand in hand, they stepped into the living light. The doorway erupted in brilliance. The bridge behind them vanished. And the fractured realms began to realign. The light did not fade. It unfolded, like stepping inside a memory rather than a place. Lina felt the ground before she saw it, warm beneath her feet, textured like ancient mosaic stone. The air smelled faintly of rain and parchment, of oceans and lantern smoke, scents pulled from moments she knew. Arman released a slow breath. Where are we? Lina turned slowly in place. The realm had no sky, only constellations drifting like living paintings. Beneath their feet, the mosaic shifted, images rearranging themselves like pages turning in a book. Then Lina saw it. The first image locking into place. A desert oasis at dusk, where she and Arman had first chosen to trust each other. "It's showing our journey," she whispered. Arman knelt, brushing his fingers over the stone. The image rippled under his touch, then expanded upward into a living illusion surrounding them. Suddenly they stood inside the oasis again. Lanterns swayed. Water reflected moonlight. But something was wrong. The memory fractured, splitting into two versions. In one, Lina walked away alone. In the other, Arman did. The realm remembers every choice, Arman realized. Even the ones we almost made. The illusion dissolved, returning them to the mosaic void. A second image formed beneath them. The floating markets, where Lina had nearly traded the map for safe passage. This time, the illusion showed the darker path fully. She saw herself handing the map over. Watched the skies collapse afterward. Lina's chest tightened. "I never made that choice." "No," Arman said gently. "But you could have." The realization weighed heavier than guilt. This realm wasn't judging what they did. It was revealing what they might have done. A deep bell tone echoed across the void. The mosaic shifted again, faster now. Dozens of memories formed around them in rising pillars of light. The citadel confrontation. The bridge of oaths. The sacrifice vision. The ring of binding promises. Each memory splitting, branching, testing the strength of their vows. Then all the pillars collapsed inward, merging into one final scene beneath their feet. But this one was different. It wasn't past. It was unfinished. They stood now on a quiet shoreline under twilight sky. Waves lapped gently against silver sand. In the distance stood a small lighthouse, its beam dark. Lina recognized it instantly. "The place from my dreams." Arman looked at her. "You've seen this before." "Only in fragments," she said. "Whenever the map tried to warn me." They walked slowly toward the lighthouse. With every step, the sky above flickered between harmony and ruin, as if this place balanced the fate of all realms. Halfway there, the ground trembled. A figure appeared near the lighthouse door. Tall. Cloaked. Familiar. Arman's posture hardened instantly. "The villain," he whispered. But the figure did not attack. It removed its hood slowly. And Lina gasped. The face was not the villain's. It was hers. Older. Wearier. Eyes heavy with regret. Arman stepped protectively in front of Lina. "This is another trick." Future Lina shook her head softly. "No trick. A warning." Her voice carried the weight of years. "You stand at the fracture point. The promise you make here decides whether the realms heal or shatter forever." Present Lina stepped forward despite Arman's caution. "What promise?" Future Lina looked toward the dark lighthouse. The map was never meant to be kept. Only completed. The words struck like thunder. "If you bind your fate to it," Future Lina continued, "you save the realms, but lose the life you dream of." Arman's voice tightened. And if she doesn't? Future Lina met his gaze. The realms fall. But you both live, together, in a broken world. Silence crashed over the shore. Two futures. Both costly. Lina's hands trembled around the map. So this is the final trial, she whispered. Love or duty? Future Lina stepped closer, her form flickering like unstable light. The realm remembers every promise ever spoken. It will bind you to whichever truth you choose now. Arman turned to Lina. Pain and pride warring in his expression. Lina, whatever you decide, I stand with you. She looked at him, really looked. At every sacrifice he'd already made. Every time he'd chosen her over safety. Tears welled in her eyes. But before she could answer, the lighthouse suddenly ignited. A blinding beam shot into the fractured sky. Future Lina's form began dissolving. The choice comes in the next realm, she said, voice fading into wind. Prepare your hearts, because the villain has already chosen his. The shoreline shattered into light. The lighthouse beam became a gateway. Arman grabbed Lina's hand as the ground vanished beneath them. The realm that remembers collapsed behind them. And ahead, war drums echoed through the sky. They did not land gently. They arrived in impact. The lighthouse beam that had carried them fractured mid-descent, splintering into shards of radiant energy that scattered across a battlefield sky. Arman and Lina emerged from the light onto a suspended war platform carved from black iron and ancient stone. The air burned with smoke. The sky roared with war horns. Below them stretched an endless expanse of floating war citadels, each bearing the sigils of the three realms. Crimson banners of Karos. Sapphire sails of Elira. Golden spires of Solori. But these were not distant forces anymore. They were clashing. Airship fleets collided in thunderous bursts of fire and arcane light. Energy cannons tore rifts through the sky. Sky bridges collapsed under marching armies. This was not diplomacy. This was fracture made manifest. Lina staggered slightly as the sound struck her fully. It's all three of them. Arman scanned the battlefield strategically. No alliances left. Every realm fighting both others. A deep vibration pulsed through the platform beneath them. The living map materialized, flickering violently. Its pathways now torn into jagged fragments. Entire regions blinked in and out of existence. Lina held it tighter. It's collapsing faster here. Arman nodded grimly. This realm isn't showing war. It's showing what happens if unity fails completely. The platform of Pali. The war platform they stood upon was ancient, older than the divide itself. Three throne pedestals stood equidistant from one another, each empty, yet glowing faintly with dormant authority. Arman recognized the design instantly. The platform of Pali. Lina looked at him. A negotiation ground. Yes, he said. A sacred neutral ground where rulers once forged world treaties. She gestured toward the war raging below. Doesn't seem very sacred now. As if responding to her words, the thrones ignited. Three rulers materialized in spectral form. Not illusions. Manifestations of each realm's will. Kale spoke first, voice like iron striking iron. Guardians. You arrived too late. War has already chosen its victor. Miris countered smoothly. War has chosen bankruptcy for all, warlord. Trade routes are ash. Seretha's voice descended like calm judgment. Both of you cling to outdated dominion. Ascension requires release. The argument reignited instantly. Lina stepped forward, raising her voice above the chaos. You're destroying the very world you rule. All three turned toward her. For the first time, they truly saw the map. Its fractured light reflected in their eyes. Kale narrowed his gaze. That relic has guided borders unfairly. Miris added. It constrains economic sovereignty. Sereth finished. It prevents transcendence beyond territorial identity. 3 justifications. 1 consequence. Division. The platform pulsed beneath them. Ancient runes ignited around the thrones. Arman read the inscription aloud. Lina realized instantly. This isn't their argument. It's their trial. The sovereigns were being tested, through the guardians. If Arman and Lina could restore even a temporary alliance, the realms might stabilize. If not, the map would fracture beyond repair. Arman addressed the rulers firmly. You don't need to trust each other. They listened, reluctantly. You only need to trust what happens if you don't. He gestured toward the battlefield below. Akaro's warship exploded, taking Eliran trade vessels with it. Shockwaves rippled into Solori sky towers. All 3 realms suffered simultaneously. Lina stepped beside him. The map isn't favoring one realm, it's trying to keep all of you connected. Miris folded her arms. And if connection weakens us? Lina answered without hesitation. Then strengthen the connection, don't sever it. Seretha's radiant gaze flickered with interest. Spoken like one who understands transcendence through unity. But Kale resisted. Karos does not bow. Arman met his gaze evenly. This isn't bowing. He gestured to the fractured map. It's survival. Suddenly, the battlefield froze. Mid-explosion. Mid-flight. Mid-strike. A familiar shadow tore open the sky above the platform. The map hunter emerged, cloaked in fracture energy. He laughed softly, still trying to stitch together a world that wants to tear itself apart. Lina stepped forward protectively. You're amplifying the division. He didn't deny it. Of course. Division reveals truth. He gestured toward the rulers. None of them want unity. They want advantage. Kale's fist clenched. Miris's eyes hardened. Sereth remained silent, but tense. The hunter's voice lowered. And if the map breaks, each realm becomes free to claim what they desire. He extended his hand toward the fractured pathways. Why preserve balance, when power awaits? Lina stepped forward into the hunter's shadow. No. Her voice did not shout. It anchored. Power without unity destroys the very world you stand on. He tilted his head slightly. And unity without control breeds weakness. She raised the ring of oaths. Its light cut through his fracture aura. Then we forge unity stronger than fear. The platform reacted instantly. Alliance runes flared brighter. The rulers felt it. The possibility of restored accord. Arman extended his hand outward. Stand together here, just once more. Miris hesitated. Sereth considered. Kael resisted longest. But as another explosion rippled across all three fleets simultaneously, he stepped forward. Reluctantly, the three sovereigns placed their hands upon the alliance sigil. The platform erupted in binding light. The battlefield below resumed motion, but slower, calmer, less chaotic. Temporary stabilization. The map's fractures dimmed slightly. Not healed, but held. But the hunter only smiled. Temporary unity. He began dissolving into shadow. Won't survive what comes next. His voice echoed as he vanished. Because the deepest fracture lies not between realms, but between you two. Lina and Arman looked at each other instantly. The next trial had already begun. Morning arrived without warmth. The valley below, once the meeting ground of united realms, now lay fractured like a mirror dropped upon the earth. Stone pathways split into jagged lines. Watchtowers leaned as though exhausted by centuries of mistrust. Lina stood at the ridge, her cloak restless in the wind. Beside her, Arman adjusted the compass, its needle spinning, unable to choose direction. Neither spoke. The silence between them had grown heavier since the revelation in the previous realm. The truth that Arman's ancestors had once brokered the alliance and later betrayed it to save their own kingdom. A betrayal that led to the valley's ruin. And Lina had only learned this hours ago. She had always believed their journey was guided by shared purpose. Now doubt walked beside her. Not loud. Not accusing. But present. Is this where it happened? She asked quietly. Arman nodded. My family called it the necessary sundering. Lina's eyes moved across the broken land. Necessary, for whom? Arman had no answer. They descended the fractured path in silence. With each step, echoes stirred, not sounds, but memories imprinted in the land itself. Ghost-like silhouettes flickered at the edge of vision, diplomats arguing, soldiers raising shields, friends turning away from friends. The realm of broken alliances did not forget. It remembered for everyone. At the valley's center stood the Hall of Accord, or what remained of it. Half the structure had collapsed. The other half stood stubbornly, as though refusing to accept history. As they approached, the compass needle stopped spinning. It pointed straight at the ruined hall doors. Arman exhaled slowly. This is where the next map echo waits. Lina folded her arms. Or where the next truth does. Inside, the air was still. Too still. Sunlight pierced through cracks in the ceiling, illuminating a circular floor mosaic, once a symbol of unity, now split by a deep fracture running through its center. Lina stepped along one half. Arman remained on the other without realizing. The symbolism did not escape her. Do you ever wonder, Lina said softly, if we're walking toward the same future, or just the same destination? Arman looked up, confused. I thought they were the same. Not always. Her voice held no anger. That made it heavier. A low hum filled the hall. The mosaic began to glow. Light rose from the fractured line, forming figures made of memory. Leaders of the old alliance appeared in spectral form, locked in their final argument. One stepped forward, a diplomat wearing Arman's ancestral crest. Another, a cartographer bearing Lina's order's sigil. History had brought their legacies together long before they were born. Spectral diplomat, Echo. We break unity to preserve survival. Spectral cartographer, Echo. Then survival will cost us the world. Their words echoed through the hall and through Lina and Arman alike. The vision shifted. Maps burned. Borders redrawn. Allies turned strangers. And finally, the valley collapsing into war. I didn't know it was this bad, he said quietly. Lina looked at him, searching, weighing. You carry their name, Arman, but you're not carrying their choices. He looked up, surprised. But their choices built the road we're walking. And we decide where it leads next. For the first time since entering the realm, her voice softened. Not forgiveness, but willingness. The mosaic light shifted again. Now it showed something new, not past, but possible futures. Two paths formed in light. One where Lina and Arman stood together before a restored alliance. Another where they walked separate roads, the map shattered between them. The realm was not showing destiny. It was showing consequence. This realm tests bonds, Lina whispered. Not kingdoms. Not armies. Us. Arman stepped across the fracture in the floor, standing beside her. Not speaking. Just choosing where to stand. The future visions flickered. The divided path dimmed slightly. Suddenly, the hall trembled. From the shadows beyond the pillars, armored figures emerged, not spectral, but real. The wardens of sundering. Guardians left behind to ensure alliances never rose again. Their armor bore crests of every realm, cracked down the center. Travelers, their leader said, voice like grinding stone. No unity shall be reforged here. Arman stepped forward. We're not reforging the past. Lina joined him. We're protecting the future. The wardens attacked not with blades, but with division. Shockwaves struck the floor, widening the fractures, forcing Lina and Arman apart physically. Each time they tried to step closer, the ground split again. The realm itself was testing whether they would keep reaching for each other, or retreat to safer distance. Arman threw the compass across the widening gap. Lina, catch. She grabbed it, the needle glowing brighter than ever before. Why give it to me? She called. Because trust isn't standing on the same ground, he said. It's choosing the same direction, even when you're apart. The compass light surged. The fractures stopped widening. Instead, they began sealing. The wardens faltered. Unity, even fragile unity, weakened them. Lina stepped forward as the ground healed beneath her feet. Arman did the same. They met at the center of the mosaic. Together, the wardens dissolved into dust, their purpose undone. Silence returned to the hall. But it felt different now. Not heavy. Resolved. The mosaic fully restored itself beneath them, its unity symbol shining whole for the first time in centuries. From its center rose the next map echo, a fragment shaped like intertwined paths. Lina took it. But this time, she didn't hold it alone. She placed her hand over Arman's as they both held the fragment together. The fracture wasn't the end, Lina said softly. It was the test. Arman nodded. And we didn't inherit their betrayal. We rewrote it. Outside, the valley began to change. Broken arches lifted. Paths reconnected. Not fully healed. But healing had begun. The map now points toward the next realm, where unity will be tested not by history, but by sacrifice. By dusk, the restored valley lay far behind them. The map fragment, now merged with the compass, had guided Lina and Arman northward until the land simply ended. Before them stretched a bridge so vast its far end vanished into stormlight. The bridge that remembers, Lina whispered, recognizing it from the oldest cartographic legends. Arman studied the structure. No support pillars, no visible anchors. How is it standing? Lina stepped closer to the threshold. It doesn't stand on stone. She looked back at him. It stands on truth. They stepped onto the bridge together. The moment their boots touched the stone, the world changed. The sky dimmed. The wind stilled. And the first memory appeared. Lina froze. She stood once more in the bustling desert market of her youth. Fabric canopies, spice winds, laughter. Her younger self darted between stalls, clutching a rolled map. I had forgotten this day, she murmured. Arman watched quietly, understanding. The bridge wasn't showing random memories. It was revealing the ones that shaped them. Young Lina approached an elderly cartographer, her first mentor. You see paths others don't, he told her. But remember, maps guide hearts, not just feet. The memory faded like sand in wind. I became a cartographer because of him, she said. Arman smiled faintly. Then the world owes him thanks. They continued forward. The bridge pulsed again. This time, the air cooled. Snow fell. Arman stiffened. My turn, he said quietly. They watched his younger self train, relentless, precise, isolated. A noble voice echoed. You carry our name. You will carry our burdens. Young Arman faltered, not from exhaustion, but from expectation. I never trained to fight enemies, Arman admitted. I trained to correct my family's past. Lina looked at him, seeing not lineage, but weight. They walked on. The bridge narrowed. Statues along the sides turned their heads slightly as they passed, not threatening, but observant. Remembering. Judging. Halfway across, the light beneath the bridge darkened. Storm clouds churned below. The map fragment flickered uncertainly. This part isn't memory, Lina said. It's fear. Two shadow figures emerged, shaped like them, but fractured. Shadow Lina spoke first. You trust him, but his blood broke alliances. Shadow Arman countered. You walk beside her, but maps always choose their own path. Their fears given voice. Their doubts given form. The shadows attacked, not with weapons, but with visions. Lina saw Arman abandoning her at a crossroads. Arman saw Lina choosing the map over him. Each illusion felt real. Each step apart made the bridge crack beneath them. The bridge is reacting, Lina realized. It holds if we stand in truth, breaks if we stand in fear. Arman forced himself forward despite the visions clawing at his mind. "I am not my ancestors," he said, voice steady. The shadow wavered. Lina stepped forward too. "And I don't follow maps." She reached for him. "I follow the people walking them with me." Their hands met. The shadows shattered like glass in wind. The bridge healed instantly, brighter than before. Golden light surged along its length. Statues bowed their heads in silent approval. "You know what this bridge really is?" Arman asked. "A test?" Lina guessed. He shook his head. "A memory keeper." They looked back. Behind them, faint glowing footprints marked every step they'd taken. Memories, fears, truths, all recorded. "Nothing we face is ever lost," Lina said softly. "It just becomes part of the road." Near the far end, one final vision appeared, unbidden. Not past. Not fear. Future. They stood together before a vast gathering of realms, alliances restored beyond anything history had known. But the vision flickered, unstable. "Not decided yet," Arman said. "Not earned yet," Lina added. They stepped off the bridge. The vision vanished instantly. Before them rose the entrance to the next realm, a shoreline where black waves met silver sand under starlight. The map fragment pulsed urgently. Lina studied the horizon. "The isles where promises break." Arman exhaled. "Sounds welcoming." She smirked faintly. "After everything we've crossed." They began walking. "Nothing scares me more than broken promises," he admitted. She glanced at him. "Then it's a good thing we're learning how to keep them." Behind them, the bridge dimmed, its task complete. Ahead, the ocean waited. And with it, a realm where unity would not be tested by history or fear, but by loyalty when truth comes at a cost. The bridge faded behind them. Not vanished. Remembered. Before Lina and Arman stretched an ocean unlike any they had crossed before. The water was dark, not in color alone, but in feeling. Waves did not flow. They collided, crashing in opposing directions as if the sea itself could not decide which way to move. Lina tightened her cloak as wind tore across the silver shoreline. "This place feels divided." Arman studied the horizon. "It is." Lightning illuminated the sky, and the isles revealed themselves. Floating landmasses suspended above the raging ocean. Broken stone arches connected them like shattered ribs of a fallen titan. Ruined towers leaned at impossible angles. Waterfalls poured upward as often as they fell. And at the center of it all, a colossal ring-shaped citadel hung split in two, its halves drifting apart, yet bound by chains of light. The same symbol burned into the living map. "The isles where promises break," Lina whispered. Arman nodded. where alliances failed and vows shattered realms. The map fragment between them ignited. Not warm like before. Hot. Unstable. As though reacting to the fractures surrounding them. The sea that rejects unity. They approached the water's edge. A small vessel lay waiting, ancient, unmanned, carved with oath symbols glowing faintly. No crew. Lina asked. Arman stepped aboard cautiously. Maybe it sails on intention. She followed. The moment both set foot on deck. The boat moved. No wind. No sail. Only a pull toward the storm's heart. But the ocean resisted them. Waves rose like walls, crashing near but never striking. Within the water, visions flickered. Alliances dissolving. Hands letting go. Leaders turning backs on one another. Memories again. Lina asked. Arman shook his head grimly. No. Consequences. A voice rose from the sea itself. Layered, sorrowful, ancient. Promises made for power. Promises broken by fear. Promises abandoned by doubt. The water surged violently. The vessel halted mid-ocean. Before them, the path upward formed. A staircase of floating stone slabs rising toward the nearest isle. But each step was cracked. Some barely whole. Some splitting even now. The ascent of fractures. Camera direction, low upward angle, Lina and Arman stepping onto levitating stone slabs as lightning silhouettes their ascent. Each step reacted to them. When they climbed together, the stone stabilized. When distance formed, cracks deepened. Lina noticed first. Stay close. I wasn't planning to do otherwise, Arman replied. But the isles were not passive observers. Whispers filled the air. Voices not their own. Will he choose duty over you? Will she choose destiny over you? Hairline fractures split the steps. The map flickered violently between them. Halfway up, the staircase split into two diverging paths. One bathed in silver light. One consumed by storm shadow. A stone monument rose between them bearing an inscription. Unity untested is unity unproven. Arman exhaled slowly. So we're meant to separate. Lina's voice lowered. I don't like it. He gave a faint smile. Neither does the bridge we just crossed. She almost laughed. But didn't. Because they both felt it. This realm wasn't testing memory. It was testing loyalty under strain. The island of fractured pacts. They chose the same path instinctively. Silver light. The monument cracked behind them as if approving the decision. At the top, they reached the first floating isle. It was beautiful. And broken. Crystal gardens glowed beneath stormlight. But statues lined every path. Pairs of figures reaching toward one another. Hands inches apart. Never touching. Every statue split down the center. These were alliances, Lina said. Not just romantic promises, political, familial, sacred. Arman studied one statue more closely. Two rulers clasping forearms. Cracked through the bond itself. What broke them? He asked. A voice answered. Not from the sky. From the statues.
Fear.
Ambition. Silence. One statue's crack widened slightly. Dust fell like ash. The oath bell awakens. At the island center stood a massive bell forged from fused metals, gold, silver, obsidian. Chains of light bound it to the sky. Inscribed around its base. Ring only when unity stands unbroken. Lina approached carefully. The map is reacting to it. The fragment pulsed rapidly, resonating with the bell. Arman frowned. Then this is a gate. To the citadel, she finished. But before they could act, the bell rang. On its own. A hollow, discordant sound. The statues around them cracked further. Lightning struck the distant ring citadel. And a familiar shadow formed within the storm. The same presence that hunted the map. Still watching. Still waiting for fractures to widen. He's using this realm, Arman realized. Feeding on broken vows. Lina clenched the map fragment. Then we don't give him any. The path forward opens. The bell glowed faintly again. But steadier now. A narrow bridge of light extended from the island toward the split ring citadel. Not solid. Not permanent. A path that would hold only if their unity did. Arman looked at her. No turning back. She met his gaze. Not anymore. They stepped onto the light bridge together. Behind them. The oath bell rang again. This time. Clear. Beneath them. The ocean of broken promises roared. Above them. The fractured citadel waited. And within its divided rings. The truth of every vow they had yet to speak. The bridge did not feel solid. It felt responsive. Every step Lina and Arman took sent ripples of light outward, waves of gold and silver intertwining beneath their feet. Below them, the storm ocean raged, but its fury no longer rose toward them. Instead, it watched, as though the sea itself waited to see whether they would remain united or fracture like those before them. Lina glanced over the edge once. That was enough. Fragments of broken alliances flickered within the waves, rulers, lovers, siblings, guardians, all lost to division. She turned her gaze forward again, voice steady. We don't end like them. Arman didn't answer immediately. Then quietly. No. We don't. But the citadel ahead pulsed with tension, as though it doubted that promise. Arrival at the split gate. The bridge connected to the lower ring of the citadel, one of two massive circular structures floating apart from each other. Once they had been whole. Now chains of radiant energy barely kept them aligned. The gate before them was not closed. It was separated. Two halves of a doorway hovering inches apart. Each carved with vow inscriptions. Each glowing in different light. Gold, destiny. Silver, love. As Lina and Arman approached, the living map flared violently between them. Its twin fragments rotated, pulling in opposite directions. Arman reached instinctively for Lina's hand. The map stabilized slightly, but the gate reacted. A voice echoed from within the rings, layered, ancient, resonant. Only unity may enter the citadel of divided oaths. Step apart, and the gate shall judge. Lina frowned. That sounds like a trap. Everything here is a trap, Arman replied softly. Still. They stepped forward together. The twin halves of the gate glowed brighter. And opened. The hall of echoed vows. Inside, the citadel was vast beyond scale. A circular chamber stretching upward endlessly, ring upon ring stacked into the heavens. Each level held floating platforms. And on each platform, echoes. Living memories of vows spoken across realms. Some radiant. Some flickering. Some collapsing. They walked across the central floor, a mirror-like surface reflecting not their forms, but their promises. Lina froze. Reflected beneath her feet was the moment she almost gave up the map to save Arman. Arman saw his own reflection, choosing the map over her in the sacrifice vision. Both reflections fractured slightly, not broken, but strained. The trial of spoken truth. At the chamber's center stood a circular dais split by a glowing fissure. Above it hovered two rings of light, one gold, one silver, rotating in opposite directions. The guardian voice returned. Here lies the vow unspoken. The promise that binds your fate. To proceed, it must be spoken aloud. Lina's breath caught. Arman felt the weight instantly. This wasn't symbolic. This was irreversible. If we say it, Lina whispered. It becomes real, Arman finished. And binding. The fissure between the dais widened slightly. Lightning flashed through the citadel's open fractures. As though time itself waited. The fracture intervention. Before either could speak. The chamber darkened. The vow platforms flickered violently. And from the upper rings descended a shadowed form. The villain. No longer hiding. No longer whispering from afar. He landed upon the opposite side of the fractured dais. Applauding slowly. You've come so far, he said, voice smooth but fractured at its edges. Through memory. Through sacrifice. Through love. He gestured to the spinning vow rings above them. But this is where all bonds fail. Lina stepped forward protectively. You won't break this one. He smiled faintly. I don't need to. He pointed to the fissure between them. You already are. The ground trembled. The reflections beneath Lina and Arman deepened, showing their worst fears. A Lina choosing destiny over love. A Arman choosing love over the realms. Two opposite betrayals. Two possible fractures. The villain's revelation. You still misunderstand the map, he said calmly. It doesn't unite worlds through love. It divides them through choice. He extended his hand toward the vow rings. I don't want to destroy it. I want to control the fracture point. Lightning surged through the citadel chains. If your vow binds destiny to love, then I lose access to the map's fracture power. His voice hardened. So I will ensure you never speak it. The shattering attempt. With a violent gesture, he struck the fissure. The dais split wider. A force tore Lina and Arman several steps apart. The map fragments between them destabilized, spinning chaotically. The vow rings above dimmed. The light bridge outside flickered. Across the aisles, statues cracked further. All promises weakening at once. Lina struggled against the force pulling them apart. Arman. He reached for her. But the fissure glowed brighter between them. The villain raised both hands. Speak your vow now. And watch it break. Unity under siege. Arman forced himself forward one step. The fissure burned his boots. Another step. The map screamed in light. Lina did the same from her side. Pain. Fear. Doubt. But also resolve. We don't need the realm to approve our promise, she said through the strain. We already chose it. Arman nodded. Before any trial. They reached the fissure's edge. Hands inches apart. The villain's expression faltered for the first time. No. The citadel holds its breath. The vow ring slowed. The fissure pulsed violently. The map fragments hovered between their hands. Waiting. For the vow. For the binding truth. For the promise that would decide not just their fate, but the fate of every realm tied to the living map. In the citadel of divided oaths, love and destiny stood separated by a single step, a single word, a single promise not yet spoken, and the storm outside roared louder, as if all creation leaned closer to hear it. The citadel trembled, not from destruction, from anticipation. Every fractured platform in the towering chamber glowed faintly. Every broken vow carved into the rings above flickered between collapse and repair. Because this moment, this single promise, would decide which direction all promises leaned. Toward unity, or fracture. The silence before the vow. The villain's power pressed against them like a storm wind. The fissure between Lina and Arman burned brighter, trying to force distance between their hands. Speak, he urged, voice edged with desperation. Bind your fate to the map, and lose the life you want. He turned slightly toward Lina. You saw the future. You know the cost. Images surged through the air around them. Future Lina alone within the lighthouse. Arman standing in a peaceful but broken world beside her. Two different sacrifices. Two different losses. Both real. Lina's voice trembled slightly. Every realm we've seen, every promise we've witnessed. She looked at the fractured statues beyond the citadel walls. They broke because someone believed love and duty couldn't exist together. Arman's gaze softened. And we almost believed that too. He stepped closer despite the burning fissure. Pain surged through him, but he didn't stop. The true understanding. The map never asked us to choose, Arman said. It asked us to unite what others divided. Lina's eyes widened slightly. The realization settling. Love wasn't the obstacle to destiny. It was the strength that made destiny survivable. She reached forward again. This time without hesitation. The vow spoken. The citadel fell silent. Even the storm paused. Lina and Arman spoke together, voices steady, resonant, binding. We vow to walk every realm together. To carry both love and duty as one path. to never let fear divide what truth has joined. The words did not echo. They anchored, etching themselves into the very structure of the citadel. The reforging begins. The fissure beneath them sealed instantly. Light surged through the dais. The spinning vow rings above slowed, then aligned. Gold and silver merged into a single radiant orbit. Across the aisles, statues of broken alliances began repairing. Cracks sealed. Hands rejoined. In the storm ocean below, the divided waves calmed. For the first time, the sea moved in one direction. The villains collapse. The villain staggered backward as the united light surged through the citadel chains. "No," he whispered. "The fracture point, it was mine." The map fragments between Lina and Arman fused fully, becoming a radiant whole once more. But now stronger, balanced, unbreakable by division. A beam of unity light struck the villain directly, not destroying him, but unraveling the fractures sustaining his power. His form flickered violently. "You think unity is strength," he spat. "It is weakness waiting to break." Lina stepped forward calmly. "Only if built on fear." Arman finished. "Ours isn't." The light intensified, and the villain dissolved into scattered shards of shadow, carried away into the storm he once controlled. The citadel restored. The massive split rings of the citadel began moving. Slowly at first, then steadily. Chains of light drew them inward. Until, with a thunderous harmonic resonance, the rings rejoined. Whole once more. A pulse of energy radiated outward across the sky realms, healing fractures far beyond the isles themselves. The final gift of the isles. The vow dais beneath them reshaped, forming a circular platform engraved with their spoken promise. At its center, a symbol appeared. Two interlocking paths forming one horizon. The isle's acknowledgement. Lina looked at Arman softly. "So, we didn't have to choose after all." He smiled faintly. "Just had to believe there was another way." The living map hovered before them again, now displaying a new path. Not fractured, but branching outward toward realms yet unseen. As they stepped from the dais, the restored citadel opened its upper gate. Beyond it, a sky of shifting colors awaited. Not storm, not memory, something older, something deeper. Arman glanced at the map. "Where does it lead now?" Lina studied the glowing horizon. Her voice lowered slightly. "To the place where the map was first created." He exhaled slowly. "So, the origin." She nodded. "And maybe, the truth behind why it chose us." They stepped forward together, the aisles of broken promises shining peacefully behind them, their vow etched into its restored heart forever. Some promises bind hearts, some bind worlds, and some, when finally spoken, reforge both.